First things first, welcome. I'm thrilled that you've decided to start eating healthier. I'm honored that you've let me share with you, and I'm excited to share my journey. Along the way, I think I've stumbled upon some of the solutions for eating well in modern times. Now let's talk about a few things. If you're the type of person that wants 100% change today, this program is probably not for you. But if you have a family, a job, any other kind of stress, or if you've tried this before and failed, then this program is likely going to be a successful experience for you. Now let me give one more caveat. I'm not a doctor or health professional, and if along the way anything you see or hear you question doesn't sound right, feel free to check with your doctor. I'd absolutely encourage you to do that. Or if you'd like to just see the research and articles and studies that I'm referencing, I'd absolutely be willing to share that with you. Just email me and I'll get that right to you. So here's the basic outline of how this will work. This week, and we'll start every week on a Saturday, this week we'll focus on our mindset and trying different foods. Next week we'll talk about bread and pasta. Now don't worry, that's why we're saving it for the second week. I'm not going to take away your bread just yet. The week after that we'll talk about what we drink, because often that's just as important as what we're eating. And the fourth week we'll learn how to put it all together in an effective way. So by making it a series of small changes, I believe there's a much greater chance of your success. I've seen this in my own life and in many other people that I've coached. So let's start with a few key background items. First of all, and you probably already know this, willpower is a muscle. And it's the same muscle that we use to make decisions and handle stress. So we just need to acknowledge that. It's not a deal killer. It doesn't mean that we can't get healthy, but it does mean that we need to acknowledge that the same resources that we're using if we have to make decisions all day long, or that if we have to deal with stress, is the same willpower that helps us to make good decisions when we eat. So we'll need to plan accordingly depending upon the level of stress and decision making that we're using. Second thing, food isn't always food. And again, I think we know this. I think we might need some specific examples to remind us of that. And my favorite one, I don't know how many of you guys loved Twinkies, but I absolutely did. Then a book came out that photographed the 37 ingredients of Twinkies in their raw material. Now some of them were quite recognizable, eggs and sugar and that sort of thing, but some of them actually had to be mined because they have more in common with petroleum and rocks than they do with what we typically think of as food. And unfortunately, that's probably become more and more common. From what I've read about in about the 70s, the way food was made went from being cooked to being manufactured, which is quite different. And so we'll want to learn to identify those foods and stay away from them as much as possible. Third thing is food is addicting. Particularly these manufactured foods. The folks that make them, nothing wrong with it, but there's no reason we can't eat just one, or there is a reason we can't eat just one. It's got just the right amount of fat, salt, and sugar to trigger those same addictive receptors in our brains that make us addicted to cigarettes or alcohol or gambling or any other addiction. They're really all quite similar, and our foods are actually engineered to have that in many cases. So again, we just need to be aware that that's what's happening and not think that there's something wrong with us because we keep craving those same foods. We've been trained to do that, and it's going to take some time to develop new habits. I talked about this a little bit, but stress and our hormones are a huge factor in eating well. So this is where we'll learn to use exercise and other tools to combat that stress so that we can eat well and have that willpower left. So again, exercise will be a component, but really only as a tool for managing stress and moods and our hormones. So I saw the other day, somebody said diet is Batman and exercise is Robin, and I think that's an absolute great analogy. And last but not least, the power of support. It's critical. Often these challenges are hard because they don't just affect us, they affect everyone that we share meals with. So whether that's our coworkers and our colleagues, or whether that's our family and our friends. We've got to have their support to make this a successful challenge. So if you've got family or friends that you think would be interested in this as well, or you want to encourage them to participate in this just so they can support you, I'm going to make this page accessible. You can forward it to them, and anybody can register before Saturday morning when we post this week's lessons, because I want all of us to go through this together. But if there's someone that you think needs this for themselves, or if there's someone that you want to have this knowledge just so they can support you and your efforts, hopefully this will be a great way to share it with them. So between now and Saturday, you've got just a little homework assignment. I want you to go to your pantry. I want you to grab a few boxes of food. I want you to flip them over and look at the labels. And then I want you to Google some of the ingredients. And I think you'll be just as shocked as I was, and maybe it won't be so hard when we get around to perhaps throwing those away or not buying them anymore when we know what's really inside. So that's your homework. Grab your pantry, look at the ingredients, Google a few, and recruit a few folks to go through this with you. I can't wait to see you on Saturday.